Okay, with Hashem's help, today's daf is this Masechta Bava Kama daf.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. The Gemara is talking about like this, an interesting case. The Gemara is discussing a topic. Let's say I own we're starting from 4 lines from the bottom of Peches Beis. Very simple. The Gemara is talking about, let's say somebody has an apartment building, right? Somebody owns the apartment building, but somebody else has a right to the rent money. So who really owns, does the person who have a right to the rent money have a right to the property? Okay, yeah, I think you have these things in the 99-year lease. Anyway, if somebody has a right to the rent money, can he sell the property? So someone owns the land and somebody owns the rent, the rent. So that is a machlekes between Yochanan and Rish Lakish. So one holds yes, one holds not. But this same idea plays itself out with every lady that gets married. A lady that gets married, let's say her father gave her an apartment building. So that's called nichsei milug. And therefore, the apartment really belongs to her. And the right to get the rent money, he gets the right to get the rent money. So technically, if the question is, can she sell, because she doesn't get the rent money, does she have a right to sell the property? So that also, so the Gemara says, not true. Takanas Usha, which means that the Chachamim got together in Usha and made a new rule that really, technically, she could sell the property, even though she's not getting the rent money. But the fact is, the deed is in her name, and it depends. If the husband would die first, of course, she gets the property back. But there is a potential that she'll die and he'll get the property. Nevertheless, technically, she could sell the property. But we say not. They made a new rule in Usha, in a married couple. If a woman sold the nichsei milug, in other words, she sold the apartment building, that he was taking the rent money. So really, he'll continue to get the rent money as long as he's alive. But if she died, then he'll lose the rent money because he's not married to her. So if she would sell the nichsei milug, b'chaye bala, in the life of her husband, she sold it to a third party, umesa, and then she died. So habal moitzi miyad halokoiches. The husband could collect that and say, wait a second, she had no right to sell the property. Why? Because he'll feel that it'll ruin the marriage, because one of the things that he maybe, why he married her was because that eventually if she would die first, he'd be able to inherit that property. But if she has a right to sell it to somebody else, then it can ruin the marriage. So that if she sold the property, it's invalid. It's invalid. She has no right to sell nichsei milug. That's the rule of thumb. She has no right to sell this nichsei milug. Amar Rav Idi bar Avin, Afanin Anamni Tanina. Rav Idi bar Avin said this is a Mishnah, not just a Chiddush of Yossi bar Chanina. We find this concept in a Mishnah. And listen to the Mishnah. A man, 2 witnesses said, we say on this man, Shagira says, he gave a divorce for his wife, V'nasan Ksubasa, and he gave her the Ksuba. So technically, here's a woman. She's all of a sudden, Adam come and said, you got your divorce and you got your Ksuba. So they're actually causing her a loss because she was married. And if they turn out to be not true, they wanted to steal from her from ever collecting a Ksuba. And the question is, we find that she's living with him. She's still married and she didn't get divorced. And we find out they're conspiring witnesses. So now, what did they want to cause her the loss? You can't say, now the no Adam came, she got divorced. So she goes back to her husband and everything is fine. So she goes back. But now the question is, what really loss did she cause her? Because every woman, it's a 50% chance she's going to collect her ksuba. Why? Because could be, yes, her husband will die, or she'll get a divorce and she'll collect her ksuba. But it also could be that she'll die, and she will and she will not collect her ksuba. So the Zaymim Eidim, what loss did they cause her? So the answer is they caused her a loss called the derivative, the option. You know how options work in the stock market? The same idea. Technically, she could have sold that right of her ksuba to somebody else and say, I'm selling you the right to my ksuba. If I die, then you lost your bet. If my husband dies or my husband gives me a divorce, then you can collect the ksuba. So that is a call option which she has a right to sell. That's what these Eidim Zoymim are going to pay her. So that's what the Bright Mishnah says. They don't say that you pay the entire ksuba. She pays the guy, the Zoymim, should pay the entire ksuba. We're going to use this word toivas hana. Toivas hana is the financial advantage, we'll call it, but it's the option, the call option that she could have sold. Ezehu toivas hana ksuba. So what does it mean? What's called toivas hana that a woman could sell her ksuba? I mean, obviously, she can't sell her ksuba because she doesn't know if she's going to collect it. So what is toivas hana? So you go into in the option markets and own them, and you make an estimation. How much you go to the actuaries, and they say, how much would a normal person, a buyer, would want to give for the ksuba that will take this bet? Shimnis armala oinis garsha. If she becomes an almona, she gets divorced, then you collect it. Then mesa, but if she dies, you shenabala, then the husband will die. That's called taivas hana. That was the loss that the Zoymim wanted to cause her, and that's what this Mishnah wants to say. Okay, so we're going to try to bring a raya like this. That this, back to the Takanas Usha, a woman, does she have a right to sell property, something that she brought into the marriage? So we're saying like this. In Usha, they said, no, a woman cannot sell that right. She can't sell anything she brought into the marriage. To the dowry, she cannot sell it. Really, now, we're saying like this. There are two parts to a woman brings into, well, just remind you, a woman brings two types of assets into the marriage. One's called nichse milug, let's say the apartment building example, where the actual deed on the apartment is in her name, just the husband has a right to get the rent money. But then there's another thing called nichse tzoin barzo. That is actually written in the ksuba, what she brought in. Let's say she brought in a brand new car, right? Worth $60,000. So the husband will say, look, I have a right to use that car. You'll write in the ksuba that she brought in $60,000 into the marriage. And no matter, even if the car devalues, goes down in value, I guarantee that she is going to get that $60,000 back when I divorce her, or it's in the ksuba. She's guaranteed. He's taking full responsibility. That's called nichse tzoin barzel. We had it in Masechta Ksubas. So now, so the Gemara says that the only thing that a woman could sell is toivas hana, but she can't sell anything of the dowry of the things that she brought into the marriage, because now the isal kedaita, if you want to say leisel takanas usha, that there's no such a thing of a takanas usha, and really a woman could sell assets that she brought into the marriage. Amai yirishenu bala. Why do we say that she's selling the toivas hana, the call option of her ksuba, based on if she's going to collect it or not, because maybe her husband's going to inherit it? She always has a right to sell something. Now, and by the Eidim Zoymim saying something false about her, she cannot sell it anymore, because they're saying that she collected her ksuba, because she could have dizaben ksubasa legamre. She could have sold the nichse tzoim barzel. She could have sold things that are written into the ksuba, and get it and get a full price for it. Let's say she could have said, if you're telling her that she doesn't have the ksuba, then she lost out from selling, let's say, the $60,000 asset that was written in the ksuba that the husband guaranteed to give her. So it must be that she could not sell it. So the Gemara says, not true. Amar Abaya, im amru b'nichse milug. Yes, nichse milug, the apartment building example, she could sell. There's no takanas usha. But the car, Once it's written in the ksuba and the husband took full responsibility of the value of the car and guaranteed her the principal back, well, then she can never sell that because the deed is not in her name. Once she got married with Nichsei Tzon Barzel, the car deed went into the husband name because he's taking responsibility if it devalues, and he's always guaranteeing the initial cost of the car. So she can never sell that, but could be Nichsei Melug, which is not written into the Ksuba. She has a right to sell. So we don't see clearly in a Mishnah of the Takonos Usha. Now the Gemara goes off a little bit on a tangent. We said that a woman has a right to sell a call option on a ksuba. Again, that's called toivas hana. A woman says, I could collect a ksuba, so I want to make some money on it. So I'm going to go into the options market and sell the toivas hana, giving somebody the right to make a bet if I'm going to collect my ksuba or not. If I collect my ksuba, he gets it, he wins. If I don't collect my ksuba, he lost his bet. So if she sells that right, that's called toivas hana, who gets to keep the money? Amar Abaya, toivas hana, hoivasan liyadei neighbor milsa. Since we're discussing the idea of toivas hana, let me say something with my comment on it. Toivas hana, if she sells a call option on her ksuba, she gets to keep that money. Li shahava. The isal kadayk l'bal have. If you're going to say it belongs to the husband, you're telling me the edim zoyimim have to pay her toivas hana. We didn't give you any loss. If you were actually going to sell the toivas, you wouldn't have kept that money anyway. Your husband would have taken it off from you. So why are you requiring us to pay you toivas? So therefore, it must be that toivas, if she would have sold the toivas, she would have kept it, and the edim zoymim caused her not to be able to have that toivas, to be able to sell that toivas, and that's what they're paying for. Rav Shalman says not so fast. Really, if she sells the toivas hanoah, that money would have gone to her husband. If she would have sold the call option on her ksuba, that would have gone to her husband. But what would she gain from it? If her husband gets in this, call option on her ksuba, then he has more in the house. There's more money to go around in the house, and she would have benefited from that. And by you being an Edim Zayman, she lost out on that Toivas Hana, and that's why you have to pay her back. Amar Rava said, Hilkasa, the halacha is, Toivas Hana, a woman sells, again, the call option on her ksuba, she sells that option, Luisha, she gets to keep the money. The Eina Baal Oichel Paris. And we don't say that, now she got some money, she should buy a piece of land and let the husband eat the fruits of that land. No, that money is her own spending money. It's her own winnings. It's like, she won the lottery. My tama, because peirit takni lerabonam, peirit the peirit like takni lerabonam. Really, only on initial assets, let's say she gets a dowry or whatever, then from that property that she gets, she can eat the rent money of that. But here it's peirit the peirit. It's like a side income that came from selling a call option on Niksuba. Loy tikne Rabbanan. The Rabbanan didn't say that the husband should get any part of it, and therefore the toivas hana always belongs to the woman. Okay, now the Gemara says like this. The Gemara is still going back on the Takanas Usha. What is the Takanas Usha? Again, a woman brings into the marriage. She brings an apartment building, and the husband, as you know, gets to keep the rent money while they're married. Does she have a right to sell that property? What happens if she sells the property? The husband continues to eat the rent money, but if she would die, he would inherit that property. She sold it. She sold it to somebody else, to a third party. So in Usha, they said a woman cannot do that. Now, that was in Usha. Do we see a source for that in the Mishnah? So Rav Hun Brei Shuma Beid Rav, Amri, when they came from the yeshiva of Rav, they said, I have a proof for this Takanas Usha from the Mishnah. Tanina, we learned in our Mishnah, Takanas Usha. We see a hint for it. It's not really written in the Mishnah, but you can figure it out that there must have been something like that. Because we learned in our Mishnah, Ha'evid, if the Isha Pigasan Ra, let's say you wound a woman, or she wounds you, right? She damaged you. That meetup is a bad for you. Ha'choyvel behen, if you damaged a woman, chayev, you chayev to pay. But if they damaged you, right? Peturim, they're potted to pay. Why? Why does a woman, if she wounds somebody in the street, She whacked somebody in the street. She doesn't have to pay for damages because she has no money. A woman has no money. It's all her husband. So here's a clear example. What do you mean? What is a woman who does? Which woman doesn't have money? Maybe she brought in to that apartment building, and she has a right to sell it. So if you're going to say there is no such a thing of tekanos usha, tizabem nichsim milug v'titelei. Let her sell the apartment building and give it to the one that she wounded. It must be she has no right to sell it. So we see there was a takana of usha that a woman cannot sell the nichsim milug. So the Gemara says, wait a second. Ula taimech. Even if you want to say that there is no, according to you, there was a takunus usha that she can't sell, right, the property, but wait a second. She could sell a call option on her ksuba. She could sell a toiva sana on that nichsim belug. That means she can say like this. I'm not going to sell it to you now, but it depends. If you can buy it from me now. If my husband dies first, then you could get to keep the property because I would have kept it and I'm giving it to you. And if I die first, you lose your bet. So she does have money. Every woman has money. Even if you want to say that if you hold of takanos usha, she can never sell it outright, but she could always sell a call option on that. She can sell the nichse milug b'tayva sana with that call option, but and give it to her. So even to you, you have a problem. Why is it that if a woman damages somebody else, if they damage you, they don't have to pay the victim? Why not? Why? Say she doesn't have money? She could always sell a call option on her nichse milug. Ella, it must be our Mishnah is discussing the less law. Our Mishnah is talking about a very poor woman who doesn't even have nichse milug. Hachiname, so therefore she can't sell the call option. So hachiname, even if you want to say that we don't have tekanos usha, right? And it could be she would, if she had a property, she would be able to sell it. Well, our Mishnah is talking about the less leg. She doesn't have nichse milug. She has nothing what to sell. That's why if she damages a person, she's parted from paying because a woman has no money. Wait. So the Gemara says, wait a second. Every woman has money. There's no such a thing of a woman with no money. Every woman can sell her ksuba. Let her sell a call option on her ksuba. You know, tell a man, sell the call option in ksuba, and she'll bring in some money to pay her victim. Answers the Gemara, Hamani, the author of Mishna's Rameirhi, the Amar, who said, she can never sell her a call option on ksuba because she's like basically no ksuba. Why? Because if she gets divorced, she's not going to get to keep the money. It's going to go to the guy that bought the call option on her ksuba. And Reb Meir doesn't like when a woman doesn't have the ksuba. It is an issa for a woman to be married without a ksuba. Says the Gemara, why not? The time of what was the source of Rameir? Why did Rameir say a woman who doesn't have a ksuba, you're not allowed to remain married to her? If a woman has no ksuba, anytime the husband's angry, he'll divorce her. It's not going to cost them anything. But in case she sold a call option on a ksuba, he's not going to divorce her. If you divorce a woman with a call option, the one that bought the ksuba the one that bought the call option will be able to collect the ksuba. So it's still going to be difficult for the husband to divorce his wife. So why can't she sell a call option on a ksuba to pay the victim of the one she damaged? So the Gemara says, really, the Gemara wants to say, maybe selling a call option is not real money. It's not actual money because it's not a tangible asset. And mili, something that's not a tangible asset, loy mishtabde is not responsible for paying for damages. So the Gemara says, Allah malai, why not? Mili you could sell it for money. A call option is a right. It's a bet. I can sell you this bet and I could turn it into money, right? So again, it's money that she could always turn it into money. Pay the victim. So why is it that she's getting away with not paying somebody she damaged? Answers the Gemara, El Mishum de Shmuel. Shmuel said, the Shmuel said that if someone sells an IOU, somebody owed me money and I sold that right to somebody else to collect my debt. If I go ahead and be Michael him, it's Michael. And not only that, if a guy did that, Shtar Chayv, sell the Shtar Chayv to his friend, sold the Shtar Chayv, he could forgive the debtor from paying. Even if he died, his son could be Michael him. In other words, the fact that she sold the ksuba right to somebody else, she could potentially tell her husband, "Michael, you don't have to pay the ksuba." And by derivation, that husband will not have to pay the third party that she sold a call option on. So therefore, it'll be easy for him to divorce her. There's not going to be any money payment for the ksuba. So the Gemara says, Yeshiva boys ask, "Zabuni zabim let her sell the call option and give him the money. Let her, if it's a chance, she may forgive the husband, she may not forgive the husband from paying the ksuba. At least she'll be able to turn it into money and pay her victim that she damaged." Amri, so the Chama said no. When she's not benefiting from it, and all she did was sell a call option to pay a victim of who she damaged, she's going to for sure forgive the husband and not require him to pay the ksuba to the third party that bought it. We're going to cause a loss to the third party that bought the call option. He's not going to get it anymore because the woman is going to be meichel the ksuba so that her husband doesn't have to pay out the money. And we don't want her to engage in such a transaction. So the Gemara asks one more question. Let her sell the call option to the person she damaged. In other words, give him the call option as payment for what she damaged him. And we go to Amud Beis. If she forgives the husband, he's not going to lose out. Because right now, if you say she doesn't have to pay the victim, so she's not giving him anything. So at least let her give him the call option as a token, at least something that he should collect for being damaged by this woman. Answers the Gemara, still, you're going to still need to go to court to execute that call option and give it to the victim of her who she damaged. And we considered that she's going to forgive the husband from ever paying the ksuba, and therefore the husband will never pay that victim out her ksuba if in case she has to. We don't get around Bezdin to bother them to do these types of transactions, which is not going to be materialized into capital. Therefore, the Gemara concludes there's no proof of Tekanos Usha, but also we learned something new, that if a woman damages somebody else, she doesn't have to pay because every woman is considered poor, right? She has no money. But the Mishnah does say that if she eventually gets divorced and she eventually has money, she has to pay the victim. It's not like she gets off scot-free forever. But if she eventually comes to money, then she has to pay. But as long as she remains married, she doesn't have to pay. Ela Hadatanya, if you're going to tell me that you can sell toivas hana, you can sell a call option, listen to this brisa. A woman smacked her husband. She didn't lose her ksuba. She could still keep her ksuba. Her husband's injured now. Her husband, let's say, lost the use of his hand. She doesn't lose her ksuba. Why not? Why doesn't she pay her husband? What are you telling me? She has no money? Amai. Tizabrina lake subasa labala b'taivas hana b'hachabala. The imachla gabebal lake abseda. Why doesn't she sell a call option on her ksuba? In other words, instead of selling it to a third party, give it to the husband. Say to the husband, listen, you can keep my ksuba. You can keep my ksuba. You don't have to pay me my ksuba, but in case you would have to pay me the ksuba, you get to keep it, and I'm giving you that right. So the Gemara says, but what's going to happen now? There's no loss for the husband. The Havade Rameir, that's a problem because that's Rab Meir. We run into Rab Meir again. The Omar Asaladim Shashas Isha Afilah Shah Achas Beloy Ksuba. A person can't be without a ksuba even for 1 hour. The time of my, what's the reason why a woman can't be without a ksuba? Because if she's without a ksuba, it wouldn't be easy. It should not be easy for a man to divorce his wife. Now, again, he damaged her. You're saying to her, now give up the rights to your ksuba to your husband. So now Hachi megarish la v'gavale b'chavala minei. It's going to be easy for him to divorce her because the rights for the ksuba belong to him now, and he'll collect the damage that she did to him. So therefore, therefore you're going to have a marriage without a good ksuba. So therefore, we say that's not an option for her to give him the rights to the ksuba. So the Gemara asks, if that's so, well, if what you're saying is that anytime she damaged him, let's say she damaged him 200 zuz, right? So therefore, okay, if you're telling me that she doesn't have to pay him, but he's damaged 200 zuz, so what he's going to do, he's going to give her a divorce and then collect it because she has money now for her to pay the damages that she caused him. So every situation is going to be easy for him to divorce because he's going to want to collect the damages that she caused him. And says the Gemara, Kagoin, there's the nafesh ksubasa, the mishum huperta loy mafsa tuba. We'll stop in a minute. It means it's talking about a case where she has a large ksuba. Okay, she has a large ksuba, and therefore, what's going to happen is if his damage was 200 zuz, but let's say her ksuba is 1,000 zuz. So he's not going to want to pay out 1,000 zuz in order to collect 200 zuz. So because of this little amount, he's not going to give her the ksuba. He's not going to, divorce her. Says the Gemara, wait a second, I have a way out of that too. If she has a large ksuba, miksuba daraisa, so let her keep at least 200 of that. Let's say we'll call that her ksuba. And the balance, what's over and beyond the normal ksuba daraisa, she should sell that, or taivas anor, sell that to him to pay for the damages she caused them. So again, we're back to square one. Why is it that if she damages him, she doesn't lose her ksuba? She doesn't lose her ksuba. Answers the Gemara, you're right, we're turning it around. She has a very little ksuba. She has a 200 zuz ksuba, that's it. And the damages that she caused him, let's say, was 4 zuz. So the damages that she caused him is 4 zuz. Then because of 4 zuz, she's not gonna want to lose 25 didarim, which is 200 zuz. Because if he divorces her, he's going to pay her 200 zuz. But in order to collect back 4 zuz for the damage she caused him, so therefore she doesn't lose a ksuba. So wait a second. Ella hadatan. One last question. Ella hadatanya kshem shlei timka v'hi tachtav. Just like a woman cannot sell her ksuba and remain under him, right? She cannot sell it to somebody else. Kach loy tafsid v'hi tachsav. She can never lose a ksuba. Why? While she's married to him. No matter what damages she causes him, she can never lose her ksuba. Wait a second, but you told me if she has a very large ksuba, she could lose her ksuba. We could find a situation where she could lose her ksuba. If she has a very large ksuba, so basically we'll say that we'll let her keep the 200 zuz of her ksuba daraisa and sell the rest to pay for damages. Why does the Brisa say no, that she can never lose her ksuba while she's married to him? I just told you a case where you agreed that in that case she would lose her ksuba. Answers the Gemara when she damages him. Amarava, you misread the case wrong. The second part of that Mishnah, and this will end. That's talking about a different situation. A woman has a right to request from her husband, who's married to 2 women, that her ksuba, her boys should inherit that ksuba. The rest of the inheritance, you split. But what was written in her ksuba, she would want her real children from this guy to inherit it, and not the other brother from another wife. This is what the Brisa means to say. If someone sells her ksuba to somebody else, she did not lose the ksubas b'nin dichrin. In other words, she died first, and the father inherited the ksuba, and then he died. Her ksuba still belongs to her children. She sold her ksuba to somebody else. My time at Zuzi didn't say. She only sold the ksuba to somebody else, but she didn't only in a situation in a situation, but she didn't want that right. Part of the right in her ksuba was that bin indichron. That part she didn't sell to somebody else. That part she always wanted to keep. Kach, if b'di'evet she sold a ksuba to her husband, which she's not supposed to, lo yafsid the ksubas b'nedichron. She didn't lose the ksubas b'nedichron. Ma'itama zuzah yidin ansar. A woman who was forced into the sale, so therefore she didn't lose that right of ksubas b'nedichron. But that's a topic of something else that the Brisa is talking about, nothing to do with the earlier piece. Okay, we'll stop over here. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Where did you leave off?
I left off
Yeah.
on the page. Here we go.
How can a woman sell the ksubu if it belongs to the husband? The ksubu. It's not his wife anymore if she hasn't got a ksubu.
Yeah. Okay.
Where did you leave off?
Lema by Lema, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 lines from the bottom.
Thank you.
That's my base.
So I don't know. I don't understand this.
I get the nach.
I get to know.